How do you feel about going to Hollywood?
Fine.
What do you think's going to happen when you go to Hollywood?
At least I can tell my life story. I can be happy. I don't have to run down from anybody because of the law.
Who do you want to meet in Hollywood?
Probably anybody that wants to take my movie, I don't care. It didn't matter in Jesus' eyes when they took his life upon that cross. Why should it matter to me? I want to be like him. Fear no people, you fear no death.
Why do you want to be famous?
The reason why I want to be famous is to let people know that I don't have to be afraid of where my next breath is going to come from. I want to be famous because other people are famous, not because of the money, not because of, I just wanted some joy and truth and the knowledge of his grace come out of me. That's the only thing I see famous in me. Not because of bloodshed, not because of war, not because of people dying every day, but give me the sense of peace and the peace of sense of serenity in being more supreme. There's where you find courage instead of discouragement. Why do we have so much war today? Because people have not come to the knowledge that they're supposed to love one another, not hate and destroy and kill one another, like we see every day in America. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there.
First time I ever saw Bob, I was parked in a parking lot by a liquor store up on Mockingbird, and cold Sunday night, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and there stood this little gnome-like figure in a big heavy coat and a cap and smoking a pipe, and he was looking at me. I was the only car in the whole parking lot, and he was about 5 feet behind my truck. So I reached under the seat of my truck and got my .357, laid it in my lap to see what he was going to do next.
Bob is a good man, and I'm gonna tell you what, if anybody comes up here and jacks with that man right there, they're gonna have to jack with me.
Is there anybody in the bathroom? Today's Thursday or Wednesday?
Today's Wednesday.
I wore my jacket. I left it up at the group. Bob picked it up, and you know, I just thought I'd lost it. Well, 2 days later, he brought it back to me, and it wasn't new anymore. It was like it had collapsed. You know, it was like, it was filthy. It had stains on it. It smelled weird, you know. And Bob is not, you know, Bob is really not really very clean. I don't know what the deal is with Bob, but I wouldn't wear that jacket until I'd taken it to the dry cleaner. So I took it to the dry cleaner, and when I got it back, it was still dirty. It was like, it's like he had sprayed on it. You know, I don't know what he did to it, but it was horrible. It continued to smell, and it was ruined. I mean, it just wasn't a new jacket anymore. So there's a bobbing.
Bob passed gas so hard, so bad in my truck, I had to throw away the seat covers and the seat. And I guaranteed Bob then that if the fires of hell came roaring down Mockingbird Avenue, and he was 3 steps in front of it, and I was passing him, that I would not stop and give him a ride, and I mean it.
Can I have a ride? Why? Why? What choice?
Whenever Bobby shows up, nobody wants to be around, you know.
I don't want Bob at my parties, but I've had a lot of parties through the years, and he tends to show up. I don't want him there, not because of anything other than to do with his hygiene. I don't like him sitting on, you know, where I'm laying my head to nap on my couch.
Can I have a ride? Hey, where you going? Can I have a ride? One thing you don't know. Why?
I'd seen him in the streets. He walks everywhere, and you can't miss a little troll with a keyboard. So I'd seen him before, but I didn't know who he was.
That king was whittled from the bone of Cain, with a little drop of poison in her red, red blood. She need a way to turn around the bend. She said, I wanna walk away and start over again. There are things I've done I can't erase. I wanna look in the mirror, see another face. I said never, but I'm doing it again. I wanna walk away and start over again. No more rain, no more roses on my way. Shake my thirst in a cool, cool park. There's a winner in every place. There's a heart that's beating in.
And he asked me if he could please take a bath at my house. And so I let him take a bath. I burned his clothes. I threw them away and got him some new clothes. Well, I had a black ring around my bathtub, you know, after he was done, and it still haunts me to this day. I forgot to bleach the bathtub out after he took a bath, and I went in there and took a bath the next day, forgetting to bleach out the bob. And even when I think about it now, it still messes me up.
Hi there.
Bob was sitting on the front row across from me. It was winter time. He had taken off his shoes and had on these thick socks and was, you know, going through the wax on his toes, between his toes, and I thought, God bless, this man is fixing our coffee. What in the hell did blah, blah, blah? And so I gave him what for doing that, and told him he didn't ever want to fix coffee there again unless he had washed his hands.
I can't get that dirt out. I need a thing.
And then one day I went back after one of the dances, and I was going to clean up the place and get it ready for just clean it back and put it back to normal. And I pull up to the place, and there's these bushes out there, and I see this body laying out there, and I'm thinking, oh great, I just found a dead body. That's all I need. And I get out and I kind of go look, and it's Bob. He's asleep in the bushes because he couldn't find a way home that night.
After working, and I've seen him up on the corner, he has fits. I mean, he's had fits up at the theater, you know, tantrums, but standing on the corner cursing cars and people as they drive by, to where I'm just like driving my car and I'm like.
I don't want him to touch me or hug me, and I don't really like giving him rides home.
Where are you going? Can I have the ride to the DoubleTree Hotel? Why? 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 Why is the answer no? Hey, can I borrow $1?
The guy is known. I mean, everybody knows the dude. So you figure that somebody would step in and say, hey, let's take care of this, and have people done that over the years? I don't know.
I had a New Year's Eve party that was cool. I was living in a cool place, and I had a good turnout. And Bob took off his shoes, and his feet were stinking. I mean, really foul, just foul. And you know, that spreads quick. And so he has Bob impacts us, you know, and it's natural to be turned off by it.
I can't remember the exact time I first met him, but I thought, thank goodness that's not me.
Weather's murder at 103. William Ray shot Cora Belly. A yellow dog knows when he has sinned. You wanna walk away and start over again. No more rain, no more roses on my way. Shaking my thirst in a cool, cool pond. Cooper told Molly the whole block's gone. They're down for jewelry, money, and clothes. I always get out of the trouble I'm in. I wanna walk away and start over again.
Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and stop doubting and believe.
People have very strong feelings about Bob, one way or the other. And here we are, the closest people to Bob maybe, in understanding his story in his life ever. And we've been working on it for 3 years, and we still can't come to a conclusion on Bob. We are still polarized within our own group on our feelings about Bob. And it produces very strong feelings. I mean, I want to punch someone right now.
Anything coming from Robert is kind of a dubious source, because Robert. Well, Robert can lie.
Bob is not a liar. He's not a liar. I tell you that straight out. He doesn't lie.
I think everybody lies. I think everybody's a big fat liar, and Bob's no different. It's going to get him a ride home, or it's going to put food in his mouth. He's going to lie about it.
Why is that?
I don't know. Wouldn't you?
When Bob was a baby, he fell out of his high chair and crushed his skull.
I have heard that he had some kind of an accident and a plate was put in his skull.
Well, I knew that he had some kind of developmental disorder or a head injury or some type of learning disability or physical disability that made him a little bit lower functioning.
Whatever.
You had a sister?
Yes.
Where is she?
I have no idea. From this day on, I have no idea.
Was there some kind of a situation? Was there some
I'd
kind of
rather not get into that right now.
Are you mad at us, Bob?
No, I'm mad at her.
His sister, about 12 or 15 years ago, brought him all the way from New Hampshire, let him out on a street corner in Dallas, and turned around and went home.
And I have understood that there's 2 sisters, perhaps. There's one sister, I believe, that lives in Houston that was directly responsible for bringing him to Texas. And as I understand it, basically abandoned him in Dallas.
How much money do you think it is?
About $86 million, like I was told.
What would you do with the money if you got $86 million?
Probably buy back the land that they took and help the people that needed help, put them in some decent housing instead of overlooking people and misjudging people.
And he has gotten angry and complained about some sort of legal wrangling over money and stuff that's supposed to be due to him, or that he owns a big estate.
Did you know that Bob was worth $86 million?
Woo! No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Tell him how much you're worth, Bob.
$86 million.
Oh, man. That's a lot of money.
There's a rumor that Bob is worth $86 million.
No kidding. I should have been nicer.
What do you think about that?
I think that's a bunch of baloney. Absolutely. Just like he says, well, I'm moving back north. You know, well, he hasn't gone yet. How can you pay attention to anything like that if you don't have a basis of fact?
But he had a grandmother who was quite well off, who lived in Massachusetts, that used to bring him to her house on holidays and drop by and see him every 3 or 4 weeks or such.
I don't think that Bob inherited. I think Bob was given some money. I think it was a disability money combined with some money that perhaps his mother and father had. I don't think it was a large sum of money. I've heard a rumor to be $80,000.
And I say, I got a lot of money, about $4 million property, $2 million property, something like that. He talked to me all the time. I say, why don't you try to get in? He say, I buy to my lawyers. I'm a lawyer to help me to pick up to my property, what he say.
He's going to get a lawyer.
This seems, I'm thinking he's a very mystery guy. That's all I can tell, finally.
When we got done eating, all of a sudden Bob no longer had any money. And he asked if I would pay, and I said, well, no, you've got plenty of money. You were just flashing it. And he said, no, I don't. We walked up to the front, tried to pay, and Bob says, again, I don't have any money. And I was like, yeah, you do. Why don't you empty out your pockets? Bob started emptying all of his pockets, and he carries a bunch of junk in his pockets. I can't remember specifically what was in there, except for one thing. He had 3 cell phones in his pockets. After bickering a little bit, Bob ends up taking out his money, and he ends up paying. I'm standing probably about 10 feet back. He looks right at me, and he yells, F you, Jay. He runs at me at full speed, and he hits me right in the arm. The sad part about the money thing I found out was he did have $35 in ones, and the reason he didn't want to spend his money was he had to buy his drugs the next day, which cost exactly $35. That's why he didn't want to spend his money. So.
You know, he comes and talks to you, and then he asks you for money, but he doesn't ask you straight away. He's asks, talks to you and asks you questions, and then he springs it on you. Can I get a quarter, or can I get 50 cents, or do you got any money?
Bob has an income. He has a job. What's that? He works at the Pocket Sandwich Theater, sweeping.
To begin with, he'd always come in and say, "Is there anything you want me to do?" And we don't. I know, Robert. We've got people to do this because we couldn't put him on the payroll. And so then it became apparent that he didn't care about being put on the payroll. He just wanted something to do.
You don't believe him at first. Nobody believes him about his money, about his uncle, about his abuse. Nobody, because he's dirty, you know what I mean? He's an uncredible source.
He has been doubted constantly in the last 20 years, even by the closest people to him. Even us, when we first met him, I doubted him.
God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise.
Yeah. I came surprised.
You're very surprising today, Bob.
I like apple pie. You know why? Bye, bye, just American pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. The good old boys were drinking whiskey and wine, singing, "This'll be the day that I die." There's an old songwriter that used to say, "They don't wear no pants on the other side of France, but they do wear pants, so they cover up their butts."
I've really found that to be true. One night a bunch of us were eating over at the restaurant, and Bob was sitting next to me, and he kept like poking me and telling me these really stupid jokes. I mean, some of the dumbest jokes I've ever heard in my life, and it was really irritating at first, but he kept doing it, and he kept poking me, "Hey, here's the one about the..." And I'm like eating my food going, "God, Bob, what the fuck," you know, and like, but he got to me. After a while, he made me start laughing.
I got one for you. What do you call a deer with no eyes?
What?
No idea.
Why did the ocean roar? Because it couldn't see.
What's a fish that hits the wall?
What?
Damn!
What has more lives than a cat? A frog because it croaks every night.
What did one hot dog say to the other? Hi, Frank.
Yeah, what did one tonsil say to the other?
Time to get dressed. The doctors are taking us out tonight.
What's the longest pencil in the world? Pennsylvania. Why did the priest burn the church down?
Why?
See holy smoke? What did the floor say to the cover? What did the floor say to the carpet?
What?
I got you covered.
What goes up never comes down. The rage.
What goes over the water, under the water, through the water, never touches?
What?
An egg inside of a duck.
What do you call a cow that had an abortion? Decapitated?
What does a gay cow eat?
What?
Hey! What do you call a gay milkman and Dairy Queen?
What do you call a gay cow?
I don't know. You like liver?
No.
Can't live without it. I like mine. I don't get this gay cow thing though.
Got any more?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. you have.
All right, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good one there.
We have one.
Go ahead.
Why is 6 afraid of 7?
Because 7, 8, 9.
Oh, he got you.
Why do you think we're at war now? Because of him.
Actually, I think President Bush is a Republican, but which party do you like better?
We got too many crooked Democrats. Bush is a crooked Democrat, will always remain crooked, he'll die crooked. He beats around the bush too much. He doesn't tell the truth about the real people. That's why he sends out money overseas. He betrayed the American people.
I don't know that story.
I do. But every time when you hear the word gas going up, that's when everybody else goes up. So if they're going to have to equalize the economy, they're going to have to start with the gas prices and keep them at the level that they were at 15, 20 years ago. The same with the city oil.
When the prices go up, the people go up, then everybody else goes up in flames. And be glad, for thy brother was dead, and is alive again, and was lost, and is found.
He said, they don't know anything about me down here, only what they've heard, not seen. And then he talks about his true identity up in New Hampshire. And, you know, that's the place where he was, that people knew him. They knew who he was. But he comes down here and he just gets dumped down here and left. Nobody here knows him, knows anything about him. He doesn't know anybody. And people constantly think that he's lying, making up stories, that he's somebody that he's not.
New Hampshire's nothing but a home state. A state I assume many Texans don't know much about unless they've been there. It's like you can't judge a man by its cover. You can't judge a state by its cover either. You have to know the road maps inside and out. It's like Laconia to Whiz Beach ain't just around the corner either. It's 9 miles up and 9 miles back each way. 18 miles a day. I know I used to walk it when it was 15, 20 below zero, 10 below, 7 above zero. People say it gets cold down here, go up there and live. It gets a lot colder than this. And the lobsters are good up there. The fishing's good up there. I'm not too sure about these lakes down here because they've been polluted so much, you don't know what's in them anymore.
How do you feel about going to New Hampshire?
I feel great.
On the way to the airport, leaving Dallas, Bob was talking about his grandmother, right? And he told us that she was supposed to leave him a house and a piano and enough money to take care of him for the rest of his life, and that she wanted him to grow up to be a famous piano player.
I remember because that used to be the house there, and she didn't live too far from the cleaners, because that's where she worked. Yes. Mm-hmm. Alice Pearl. Excuse me. Have you? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the name Alice Pearl?
I don't know any Alice Pearl, but I've been here for 35
Harry
years.
Pearl was her father, her husband, and she used to work at a coat factory.
Okay, so Bob was insistent that his grandmother lived at this specific address on Mystic Avenue in Arlington. And we're driving around and we're in Arlington, but we're kind of on the highway, and we see a sign that says Mystic Avenue for an exit. And we're like, oh my God, because we were gonna stop and ask for directions somewhere. And then we see we are on Mystic Avenue and we're driving down it. And well, we're looking for the number and we can't find it. You know, it jumps from like 178 to 188. And there's nothing in between where Bob says his grandmother's house was. We're thinking, well, maybe it was torn down or who knows. And then we end up, we're eating lunch again. And Bob just walks up to these men who are, on a business lunch, and he strikes up a conversation with them and starts talking to them about his grandmother and did they know her, and she lived at this particular address and we're looking for the house. And they suggest, we come up and say hi to them too, and they suggest that we go to some city records building or the library, and told us that there are particular books that we can look in to find out who lived at what address, in a particular year. And so we did that. We followed their suggestions, which we got because Bob went up and talked to them, just random strangers. And so we poured through a bunch of different books and we found his grandmother's name and his grandfather's name and his father's name. and that they lived at this particular address, which was, you know, like 30 numbers off from the address that Bob had given us. And it was, you know, Mystic Avenue. And we found the house.
Hi, Butch. How are you? Okay. It's been a long time since I talked to you. It's been a while since I talked to anybody up here.
Hello, Robert.
Hi, Robert. Long time no see.
What is this?
Just a keyboard.
Oh, terrific. Do you remember her?
Vaguely.
Gladys,
Yeah, yes,
you lived with us for a while on
Yeah.
Derry Road?
yeah, I now remember.
Uh-huh. You want a kiss?
Yeah, I missed you.
You did, huh?
Oh, have a seat over there.
We didn't know where you were. Robert? Yeah. Yeah, on the Derry Road, remember?
Yep.
Up where we sold the trailers. and
Yep.
everything. And you ran the well dry
Yep, I remember.
How do you do that?
in the shower. He just stayed in there and stayed in there and he ran the well dry.
When was this? Was it, you remember about when?
That was in the 70s, 73, somewhere around there.
Part of the mystery of Bob in Dallas is that he tells people that he was due this big inheritance, and everybody's like, sure. But now that we're hearing it from you, could you retell that story about Bob and his inheritance?
Well, that's the story I got from Marjorie, which is his aunt. And she was the one who told me, she told me night before last again, that when his grandmother died, she was going to leave him the house and apparently enough wealth that he would have for the rest of his life. And she doesn't know what happened either, why it didn't come to pass.
But when did you fall out of the high chair? Do you remember when he fell out of the high chair? Or
No, I don't, because they were down in Massachusetts then.
do you think that caused the brain damage? Or
I don't know.
Nice, go in the door. Hi, Dave. Long time no
Long
see.
time. I see you get a little gray since I saw you.
Yeah.
last. You weathered a little better than I did.
Yeah.
I still got my hair though.
Yeah.
Good to see you,
I
my
kind of
friend.
missed you.
Thank you. Missed you too. I often think of you, seeing people walk down the street with something in their arms, and I
Yeah.
say, it looks like Bobby.
Gee,
Good to see you.
It's been a long time since I
How long? You know?
Seems like forever.
Forever. It's been
10
quite a few years, hasn't it? Yeah.
Since
Well,
last.
I'm glad to see you. You're looking good too.
I just had a birthday, you know.
How old are you?
I'm 54 as of last Monday.
54. You haven't caught up to me though.
How old are you?
67.
You don't look a day over 45.
Thank you. Oh, you know what to say. You haven't changed a bit, Robert. Not one bit. You're a smoozer. Been around long enough to know how to do that, right? Oh, you look good. Great.
One day he showed up in my office, which, you know, the secretary usually let him come right in if I wasn't in counseling or something. And he was all dressed up with a suit, and he had a briefcase. You carry a briefcase most all the time. And in that briefcase, he had sort of his history, connections that he had with the state in relationship to where he was and what monies were due him, that kind of thing.
But he mostly come down and just wandered around wherever he wanted to go. He didn't like to visit, right? You just like to do what you want to do. He was like a free spirit, always on the go.
I'd see him on the streets walking,
always walking. And one time I was coming back from Boston and he was on the highway. Wasn't hitchhiking, he was just walking. And I picked him up, and at that time he was pretty distraught, saying that things weren't going well and his money was lost, and he didn't know what he was going to do, where he was going to go, so we took him back to church and discussed it, and he went on. I think I took you home that day. Most of the times I picked him up someplace and then took him home. But he was pretty much on his own, and it was very tough. I know we helped him. I helped him with some money sometimes, helped him with clothes. One day he came in, I think it was you, Bob. You remember this? I took shoes off my feet and gave them to you.
Yeah, that's right.
My secretary thought I was crazy, but he was out. It was in the wintertime, and his shoes, the holes were in his shoes. And you ended up in this institution or an orphanage or whatever it is.
It wasn't an orphanage. It was just an institution, like the Concord State Hospital.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And it was co-ed somewhat.
Okay.
I could tell you all the names of the buildings up there.
I don't need to.
Rice, Cotton, Baker, Powell, Cornell.
We happened upon a person who had worked at the Laconia State School and who basically approached us and said, hey, you guys are visiting here from Dallas. What are you doing here? And, we proceeded to tell him, and Bob was with us. And, so he had worked at the school when he was, I think he said 17 for a number of years, and had that, knew what it was like, remembered what the conditions were like, and proceeded to agree to be interviewed and describe that all of that to us.
Even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I fear no evil. There's the ward. Yep, that was the station. Yeah, now I remember. And they had these, and the beds were up there. The beds were back there. Yeah, now I remember. And there's another part. Oh, yes. I know this very well. And that was the back door out there, and they had an office back there. And this is where the attendants used to stay. That is the attendant station.
I'm not a real expert in that field. My understanding is the Laconia State School opened in the early 20th century. I don't know a specific time frame or a specific year. It was probably the early 20th century.
What was it used for?
In those days, it was an institution for people who had some mental health issues, those who could not be streamlined into the general population when they'd go to school and take classes, and they'd also be able to receive necessary mental health treatment that would be provided for them. That's my understanding.
And when you look over here, I noticed you could see Crimby Kitchen. Crimby Kitchen's where they prepare all the meals. Yeah, I remember this very well. Yeah. And these used to be the bed stations, and when everybody had their own station, where they used to put all their, belongings there.
And I eventually, at 17, ended up at the Laconia State School applying for a job without any idea of what it consisted of. So anyway, what I found at 17 years old was I went into an office, kind of like very hastily signed some employment papers, and then kind of like entered this different world. And I think that at the time that I started working there at 17, there were between 600 and 800 folks that lived there. I believe there were about 18 buildings. I may be off on the numbers. But it was about 600 or 800 people and in about 18 buildings. Now, the funny thing about it was that there was this whole town functioning here with stores and people who went through their usual routines. And up on this hill, there was a completely different world that had its own routines and its own kind of logic that had nothing to do with society at large. So
you felt like you were kind of isolated from everybody. People weren't normal. They were sick of. I couldn't go back into that. It's too. You wouldn't want to know how bad it was.
I clearly remember my first day on the job. I was sent to the infirmary, and that was essentially the hospital where people who were really ill were going to die, or people who were very physically compromised. Excuse me. And as I walked into work, there were 2 staff on, and when I showed up, they handed me a big armload of cloth diapers and a big handful of heavy metal safety pins, and they said, just change everybody on this side. We'll be back in an hour. So there I was with like no training, an armful of cloth diapers, and as they split, they had these like big steel like cribs that looked more like cages. And my job was to change this person who had soiled himself. So I managed to get the diaper off. Now I hadn't received even the barest of information, like even to breathe through my mouth. So I'm kind of like gagging and retching, and I managed to pull the person towards me and, kind of like I cleaned them up with a washcloth and stuff. And I got a dry diaper under there. I was doing the best I could at 17 years old with no training. And as I pulled the person towards me to pull the diaper further underneath, he fell off the bed, and I managed to catch him by the ankles as he started to fall. Now I'm perspiring by this time. And I got this guy by the ankles who's frozen into this position, and I'm trying to swing his weight back up to the bed.
Is the dog all right?
Yeah. And my brother happened to work in another building, and he went by because he had recommended me for the job, and he sees me swinging this person by his ankles and just shook his head and walked out. So that was the depth of training that you got when you worked there.
Welcome to the Laconia
Right.
School. Cages and people in diapers.
That's the way they did it, and that was abusive to me. And I told him, I said, I didn't come here to live like this. And I only got put here because my mother didn't want nothing to do with me. I didn't know that at the time, but that's what I was told.
You have this kind of like superstitious belief that different is evil, and therefore can somehow infect, what's normal. And then you add this kind of industrialized idea about how you house and feed and operate an institution. And what you have then is you have this kind of mechanized framework to deal with people's fear of people that are different.
This used to be the locker room. This is where they put all their belongings when they came in. They used to strip them down, put everything where they old in there. Then when they left, they got all their belongings and got discharged. And that used to be the medication drawer, if I remember correctly. This used to be the medication cabinet. That's what I remember, the old medication cabinet. I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's what it was. They used to keep all the medications in here.
Do you remember what kind of medications you took, Bob?
So they had me on Storazine, Dilantin, phenobarbital. They had me on everything, and I just quit it altogether after I left here. And the doctor said I didn't need to be on that much. So I just quitted it out, and
that was their daytime existence. When it was time to go to bed, that was arbitrarily decided that it was at 8 o'clock. Trays of chlorohydrate would come out.
What's that?
Chlorohydrate's a sleeping medication. I never did any.
No, I'm not what I mean like, but I mean, what is it similar to in terms of?
It's a knockout drug.
Like a Valium?
Stronger, much stronger. So essentially that would come out and you would just kind of like guide people to beds where it was just one bottom sheet, one top sheet.
No blankets.
No blankets. And you would essentially just lay them down on the bed because they were nearly unconscious, cover them up. And that's what people's lives were like for like 40, 50 years.
I mean, if you want to go upstairs, that's fine, but I'd rather not, but... Because I don't particularly care for these.
Why?
I just don't, okay? Don't ask why.
You may remember this. One of the things that people that lived in Baker were very terrified of was being pushed down the stairs, the concrete stairs that separated 1 and 2. And that was like the most overt form of torture that was used there. People would literally be pulled screaming and thrown down the stairs, and since they were concrete, they generally got banged up pretty badly. If you have to remember that if you broke a bone or in some other way became even more incapacitated than you were destined to go to a lower ranked ward, and people lived in fear of being sent to Powell Building.
Oh yeah, there was plenty of abuse, and verbal abuse too.
Describe the physical abuse.
I used to see people used to get punched out for no reason at all, and people that wanted to use the bathroom, they make them use their, I hate to say it, they make them go to the bathroom in their pants, and I used to see people eat out of toilet bowls and stuff like this, because they were so heavily mentally inclined with their medication, and people were being overdosed with medication.
This guy that had been there for a long time yelled medication time. And when he did that, he went into the nurse's cubicle and he reached up, it had a partition ceiling. He reached up and moved the tile, came out with a baseball bat with towels taped to it, and he just got in the middle of the day room and started going at him like Mickey Mantle. I mean, just like pulverizing people and herding them over into a corner. And I was shocked, so I left the ward and I went over to the administration building and said, he's beating people up, what should I do? They told me that I was out of my duty station.
So tell them about the time that they wanted you to take a cold shower.
Usually at nighttime. People used to urinate all over themselves, and you know, there was low-grade facilities. I really don't want to get into this because it brings me back, or I don't see fit where I shouldn't even be in here. That's not my kind of. I'm sorry, I just can't go through with this.
What are you grateful for, Bob?
I'm just grateful that I'm alive today. That I'm not in those hospitals where I was. That I can breathe, and I can speak my opinion, regardless of what people think or where they come from. A man of sorrows, and we esteemed him not.
I'm saying that on some level he is normal, and then you have to, that begs the question about what's normal. All begs us to think about deeper issues, okay? Truth, lie, right, wrong, normal, abnormal. He brings up all these questions that in a day-to-day, workaday world, we don't think about. So that's why he's polarizing. to some people, I think. It says he makes them feel things that are sometimes unexplainable. He doesn't fit into a category. He doesn't look like the norm.
I think I'm trying to give him a job, but he don't have anything. He don't have a car, he don't have he's not really, it's a normal life, you know.
He's out in the open all day long. I mean, do I know where Bob lives? No. Do I have any idea how Bob survives? No. Do I know how Bob showers, or do I know where does he sleep at night? No, I have no idea. Not that I've ever thought of it, but it's kind of a question.
Institutions were just very artificial environments, and they were stimulus. People who lived there were stimulus deprived. I mean, the concept of individual possessions was an unknown experience for people who spent many, many years there. You had the clothes on your back, a few other clothes that were kept in a clothing box, so to speak, a locker-like thing. And there are stories that historically people who were more capable, anytime they left their building, would carry all of their possessions with them. And so when you look at the effects of this living, you know, if you think of the daily activity experiences that the people had living in this institutional framework, be it eating or personal hygiene experiences or their control of their own possessions, their ability to be self-directive and make choices, all of the kinds of things that we take for granted in our lives as we grow up and so forth. The people who lived at Laconia were deprived of these, and so they were deprived of opportunities to learn and opportunities to experience things. And at the same time, they learned behaviors because of that environment, which are considered odd or different. And there are many stories of people, you know, who walk around still, who have been placed in the community and carry certain possessions with them because they do not trust that if they leave them in their home, that they will be there when they get back. There are other people who have very, very bizarre eating habits because and they can be traced back to some of the experiences they may have had in the institution. The same is true in the area of personal hygiene. So if this is what their socialization experience was, the institution, it has left them in a very distorted life position.
Just that way a little bit. What y'all doing to Bob in here?
Cleaning his room for him.
Okay, well, I'm a neighbor, I'm just concerned. Bro?
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Even more retarded.
Okay. Okay, I have no money first.
Okay, we'll see you in 6 months. Bob, you have a good day, bro. Bob, don't forget your keyboards out here.
Bye, Bob. Bye.
Right. Can you drive me down to Pelham? I gotta walk this in.
What do you think about Bob's hygiene, you know?
What's hygiene mean?
If your body is clean, if your fingernails, if your hair is clean or not?
Well, his fingernails are kind of dirty and long. His body's kind of clean, medium. And
What about his feet?
his feet kind of smell.
Right. He's hurt you, Bob?
No.
When's the last time you had him cut?
A while.
No, I have to cut Freud's toenails too. Oof. We'll need the big scissors. And I believe that he wasn't taught those things when he lived at the state school. He talks about how people were, lined up against the wall and hosed off, and that's how they cleaned them. And so, there's no teaching going on there. They're just doing their best to try to get the job done with no care for, human dignity or teaching them anything about, what they need to know to be able to survive on their own. You see how long this is? That's just half of it. How come your big toenails grow so long?
They ain't been cut in 6 months.
Who cut him before?
I went to the podiatrist. Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Toes will feel naked.
That's a lot better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing makes it better. Those seeing, they may not see. Those hearing, they may not understand.
So Bob described his girlfriend. Why did you like Karen? He said because there are no secrets. And I think that was attractive to him because there were so many secrets in his family that he had to endure or live with the fact that he had to keep the secrets or that there were secrets being kept from him.
As the flames went higher, it burns, the ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire.
Hello?
Hi, may I please speak with David Adams?
This is Jim.
Would you be willing to talk to us now if we like turn on the recorder and just ask you some questions?
For Bobby, yeah, I will.
I mean, he says these things, and we just want to make sure that we are, on track with.
Well, he was abused. Him and his sister both were abused.
Yeah.
By their mom. She didn't like kids.
She didn't like kids.
No, his mom. How you say she had a mental problem. We believe it was schizophrenic too.
You think it was schizophrenia too?
She wanted the kids and she didn't want the kids, and she put them outside in the hot heat. She'd spit on the food.
Say she did to the food?
She spit in the food.
Oh, spit in the food?
Yeah, she'd spit in the food. The two incidents where her mom wanted her to have sex with this other guy, this older man.
Lionel wanted Holly to have sex when she was 8 or 9 with an older man?
Right.
Wow.
She was cold-blooded.
Why did Bob have the surgery, do you know? Is it because he got hit with a lunch bucket?
Yep. Yep. That's what caused this whole problem. When Bobby got hit in the head, he wore an Army helmet because he'd keep banging his head. Our skull was still wide open.
And you said Bob was hit on the head with a lunch bucket. Do you know who did that?
His mom.
His mom.
Yep. And her mom was ferocious. They could have turned her in for child abuse, but no one did.
In January 1953, Robert Crawford was admitted to the Boston City Hospital after falling from a high chair and hitting his head on the floor. While in the hospital, he started having seizures. His pupils became dilated and he was non-responsive to painful stimuli. The seizures occurred every few minutes, lasting 2 to 3 minutes each. At this point, he was transferred to neurology. 2 days later, Bobby was operated on for removal of a subdural hematoma. After the next 28 days, he remained hospitalized and fought bouts of infection. At age 7, the patient was treated at Brooke Army Hospital in Texas for closure of a defect of the skull. Examinations revealed a scar on the right side of the skull above the right ear, approximately 4 centimeters in diameter. The defect was soft and had a pulsating feeling.
Did you ever hear of any abuse of Bob?
Yes. One of the things that somebody, I don't know, his mother or somebody in his family hit him with a frying pan, side of the head. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. And started some of the problems that he had as a very young kid.
We talked to David Wells, and he heard that Bob, as a child, his understanding was that Bob was a normal kid, but after he got hit on the head with a frying pan or had suffered abuse, that this is when he changed. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. And I didn't know that for a long time afterwards. You know, I didn't know it when it happened.
The frying pan?
I don't even know if that happened. Margie says it did.
Oh, so Margie said that he got hit. Do you think that he fell from a high chair?
Yeah, oh, I'm sure he did, yes. Yeah.
It's written down in my medical report.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you did fall from a high chair. But the frying pan was extra, I guess.
He was just a normal kid until some point, whether it was the frying pan incident or the falling out of the high chair or something like that. I'm not sure where it happened or what happened, but somewhere along there. And then the accident, all the above, sort of caused Bobby to have the problems.
The other thing is I keep forgetting to mention.
Okay, what do you remember about Bob's mother, Ina?
She was, I don't know, she was different. She, see if I can remember, she pretended to be very, very sick once. And they called the doctor down and...
Did your mother ever abuse you?
Yeah.
What'd she do?
I can't say that because it's getting into personal matters.
I remember when the doctor came, he did something to shock her because she was kind of hysterical. And he said he had to do that to bring her out of it, whatever it was happening. It was in my house.
I know I came from, let me say something, I came from a strict home, a real strict home. None of us were allowed to talk to each other. None of us allowed to make contact with each other. That's how strict our family was.
You couldn't talk to your own sister?
Nope.
What did you do during the day when you were a kid?
Something ain't nice. I was locked up in closets.
You were locked up in closets?
Yep, that's where my mother was.
Your last memory of your mother?
My mother, I really never got to know, other than her tying me up in a bathtub, my hands tied behind my back, and with child abuse. She used to make me sleep in a tub full of bleach water.
Say it again, what?
She used to make me sleep in a tub full of bleach water when I was a kid growing up.
Sleep in a tub full of bleach water?
Overnight.
What else?
And she abused me by making me sleep with no clothes on, period.
Why did she do that?
I had no idea.
Did you know about their mother?
Oh, God, yes. Holly told me about her mom. They could never really know, they couldn't go out, how you say, inside and eat or anything. They always had to stay outside in the heat and all that.
Where did they have to stay outside in the heat?
Every place they'd been, even in the cold.
They would make their children stay outside in the heat or the cold?
When he was gone, you know, on the base and everything, that's when she'd be really cruel to him. Always Bob, it would be always Bobby and Holly. They're the ones who were laughing in the background. They didn't give a hoot.
They were laughing when Holly and Bobby were getting abused?
Yeah, and they knew it. They knew it. Because I finally got, we were at, when she came up here to Brownwood, she goes, yeah, I knew it. But the whole thing is, they could have turned her in for child abuse, but no one did.
What do you remember about your mother?
She was an alcoholic. April 4th, 1970.
What?
One minute.
What happened on that day?
I came sober. I drank my last drink when I was way up in New Hampshire. Laconia, New Hampshire. Weir's Beach is where I first took my drink. And I drank to escape all the pain. Because if you had my problems, you drink too. Take heed lest any man deceives you.
She left Bob in Dallas, and Ina left Bob at the age of 8 at
Laconia State School.
At Laconia State School and never visited him. Same thing. She did the same thing. It's almost like she saw what her mother did and she repeated it.
Mm-hmm. So, Bob, do you have any happy memories of you and your sister?
No.
Just dropped you off on the street corner.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Do you remember where that street corner was?
Let me see where the street corner was.
What is it?
It was down on Swiss Avenue. .4806 is where I used to live.
Where did you live?
I lived upstairs.
What did it look like when you came here?
It wasn't like this. They didn't have that top roof there. The building was an old shadow. Like I wish I could go inside and I could show you what I meant. And then they had big tables and chairs. The rooms weren't all that great either.
Well, let's pretend your sister's here. What would you want to say to her?
Well, it's not fair because I can't talk about her because I'm talking behind her back. If it was your sister, you wouldn't talk behind her back, would you?
Well, I might tell somebody how I feel.
If I can't be confront up now, how can I be confront now? If I can't be confront up with her now, how am I going to be confront up with her later?
Well, she might see this.
How's she going to see it?
I don't know. Maybe we'll show it to her.
Are you planning on going up there?
Yeah.
Can I come? Because she was the spoiled rotten of the, she was the rotten child of the family.
What'd she do?
Well, you're not hearing me. She always had her way of doing things when she wanted them done. She didn't care what people thought or where they came from. As long as she got what she wanted, what did she care? If she cared, she wouldn't have went off and left me down here. I'd ask her, why did she leave me down here without telling that, why did she leave me here and not come back like she had promised? Yeah, she drove me in Dallas and dropped me off there and said that she was going to mail me the check the next day, and she never did.
Tell me where the check came from again, Bob. I didn't understand what you were saying.
This came from my mother's estate, from Andrew Hayes. Andrew Hayes was the one that gave me the check that came from my mother's estate.
Who was he, like the executor?
He worked for the health care for the homeless. When the health care for the homeless, when he got the check sent to him, then he authorized to get the check, and he gave it to me. And when I got the check, she took it from me and never gave it back.
Hello? Hi, is this Andrew? Yeah. Hi, Andrew. This is Heather Jensen calling from Dallas.
Oh, hi, Heather. How you doing? I'm sorry to get back to you.
That's okay. Did you get the email of the photo of him?
I did get the photo, yeah. Yeah, I do remember helping him. He had gotten some kind of inheritance, and there was some stipulations about what he needed to do in order to get it or something.
Mm-hmm. That was something from an inheritance that he got that apparently was made out to him, and that she said that she would cash it for him or whatever, or help him with it.
I remember that as is often the case with people who are, kind of fall out of the picture and have either mental illness or homeless or something, when they inherit something, other family members will, get it for themselves. Kind of the kind of a common thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, the 50,000 could have been, not the 86 million. I don't remember that. I would have remembered that.
Yeah, you would think.
Because I would have gone, whoa.
Yeah.
Right, set up a foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, your phone kind of cut out.
Hi, you reached Andrew Phillips Hayes, social worker with the Healthcare for the Homeless Program VA Clinic at 13th and Mission. I'm not available right now.
Here's the $49 comprehensive background check I paid for.
Oh, goody. What does it say?
No phone numbers.
What's the address of mine?
Although, they have neighbors. Let's call this neighbor. Because that was the one neighbor that...
I need to call the police department to find out where our address is.
Well, we have an address, we think.
Oh, I'm scared of that. Do you want to call or you want me to call?
You did a really good job.
Oh!
good job. Go ahead. Do it.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you $500.
You want to practice?
Yeah, okay. Ring, ring.
Tell me what you're feeling.
I'm just kind of nervous, but
Tell me more.
I just hope she comes out and tells me the truth instead of lying to my face, instead of lying behind my back.
You can start with saying, you know, we drove.
God, I don't want to go through all that again.
You don't want to go through it?
Not that part of it.
Why not?
Because
Why don't you want to talk about when she dropped you off and left you?
and she left me with no money, and she left me like a vacant. She left me with hardly anything I had on my shirt. She left me in the winter in front of the shelter.
She says you're schizophrenic. What do you think about that?
I'm not schizophrenic. She's the one that's schizophrenic.
Have you ever heard of any diagnosis about her?
A lot. Ask the doctor.
Well, what did you hear?
That she never can confront anybody with the truth. Every time you try to confront her, she runs.
Describe her running.
Like she'll go in there and shut the door, and then she'll say, "Go away or I'll call the cops." She's always threatening people with cops.
Yep.
I mean, it's within a house or two.
You're right.
And us driving back and forth.
Okay,
in
well, we'll
front
do
of the
one more
house.
drive-by and we'll go find our place, but we're just gonna...
I'm not driving by that house.
Okay. What do you think about all this, Bob?
I want to find out why she lied to me.
But what do you think about all these big houses, these luxurious, nice places compared to where you live?
We know she's there right now.
Should I call her?
Yeah, go ahead, I
Well,
did it.
I'm just asking Sebastian.
Go ahead, I dare you. Okay, that's their house.
Yep. And that little golf cart went in there.
them. They saw the Texas plates. That was a woman with blonde curly hair.
Did she look like Bob?
Well, they know we're here. Or they think that we're here. I mean, they know every car in this complex. Texas plates, driving around in here. They know.
She's, how you say, kind of weird, you know. She's a high class. She wants to believe that everyone thinks that she's a high class roller.
Leave it on.
Leave it on.
Why would the car be there if they're not home?
Yeah.
That's
There's
what
someone
don't-
in there.
There's someone in there. I'll make a phone call.
Call her right now.
Okay. You open the car. We are actually in front of your house, where the number originated from. We have driven all the way from Dallas. Given the new information about you telling that Bob's schizophrenic, I thought it was really important that, you get a chance to talk to us, because the film's going to go forward with or without your opinion. And I just felt like with that information, I don't know who to believe, actually. I think that's it. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bob,
What?
this is your chance. What are you going to do? She's behind that door. Are you going to get her?
Yeah.
No, just say you
Knock
want
on the
to
door.
ask some questions.
I want to know why you took my money, girl. And you know what money I'm talking about, too. There's no one answering. I wonder what she's afraid of. I feel like I'm a nut just knocking to somebody that doesn't want to respond. Hello?
A blonde-haired lady just drove behind that car.
Yeah.
Put her seatbelt on and waved at us. The driver had his seatbelt on.
And it had a handicap sticker.
It did it really?
Mm-hmm. Handicap hanging from the.
Which way was it
I
going?
can't get...
Straight ahead.
It was going in the direction of the station.
Yeah. And she was putting her seatbelt on and waving to me. So that means she must have just...
But their garage is in front. What could possibly...
Somebody picked her up.
Somebody picked her up.
She called a friend and she walked out the back door and got in the car.
Should I go this left?
So she was possibly waiting right there when we were right back over there.
Wow.
I was like, oh, look how nice. They're waving. Oh, what a friendly neighborhood.
Really?
And then I realized that she couldn't have seen me from the front. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She had to have known I was standing there to wave at me. Because we were in that little inlet.
How do you feel about the anticipation of driving all the way up here and then you get to see her?
It hurts. It really hurts.
What do you think of this golf course she lives on?
I hope someday it burns right in front of her.
What?
Burns right in the ground, right in front of her.
What did you wish happened, Bob?
What do you mean what I wish happened?
Well, do you wish that she had come to the door?
Yeah, I wish she would have came to the door and said, here, I'm sorry, I apologize. I said, you owe me an apology a long time, haven't you, woman? Now let me voice my opinion, okay? Can you call back to people and tell them that you lied about this? Just to set my name straight for the record?
What people?
Did you want the
The
money?
people that she lied to.
Did you want the money or just an apology?
An apology with the money.
But what most?
And plus, I'm just looking for my gratitude.
What did you want the most? An apology or the money?
The money and the apology.
Well, what of the two?
You had to pick one.
Pick
Which
one.
would you take?
I take the money.
Why?
Because that's something you can never replace unless you had a lot of it. $50,000. You let somebody take $50,000 from you and let them lie about you for so long, how would you feel?
Put that thought in your own mind.
I'm pretty sure that there's a core of truth in there. It may be very tiny, and he's built a big shell around it, but no, the things he says usually turn out to have a little bit of truth in there. He may have embellished them, but he's not telling you a lie.
But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who builds his house upon the sand.
The intellect that it takes to understand the connection between how Jesus died on the cross and that whether or not he cares about who buys his story or believes it or not is a philosopher's intellect. And this is a man that has a rated 60 IQ. I mean, where does that come from? I mean, you know what I mean? A large part of his brain is missing. Where is that coming from?
He just came in one day and we had a melodrama and a piano in the corner and started playing. I mean, we were all just, oh my God, you know, because he just went over there and started playing.
He's always carrying that keyboard. Somebody told me he could play that he could play that real good. Think you can play that for us, Bob?
What's happening? All right. How's Jerry Seinfeld?
That's great. He just ran into a spider web.
I did?
Yeah, I turned around and the spider web.
That used to be in the chapel. There used to be a chapel. There used to be a Protestant chapel and a Catholic chapel.
Did you ever play that organ?
Yeah, but it's no good now.
But you did play it?
Yep.
What did you play on it?
Different songs.
Well, we were amazed when he first did it. When he came in toting, or no, he didn't even come in toting his piano. He came in and asked if he could play on our piano, and we, you know, it was sort of a yeah, sure, Bob. We expected chopsticks or something, and he can play damn near anything you rattle off. He's no virtuoso. But I'm always so impressed by anybody who can play anything on the piano, that to see this little guy sit down and play song after song after song, again, like I say, not expertly, or he'll never end up in Carnegie Hall, but he knows the tunes and he knows how to play them, and it's pretty amazing. So I'd say, like I said, he's never going to make a living at it, but he's okay. He's better than me.
different times when we've had a hospitality suite at a convention. You know, he's played and he really sounded good, really does. Which, I don't remember the name of the disease where there'll be a person who's maybe a brick short of a full load, but that has a talent. You know, I don't remember what that name is, but it's very interesting to watch that in Bob, because I think he does have a musical talent.
And Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, that no man shall come to the Father but by me. If it were not so, I would not have told you that I go prepare a place for you. And when I come again, I shall receive you unto thyself, that where I am, there he may be also. And Thomas said, Thou not knowest the way. But Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Because remember what he says, he that is of the world is not of God, and he that is of God is not of the world. Although I'm in the world, but not of it. The other thing is, because if I don't forgive them, he ain't going to forgive me.
You know a little scripture, don't you?
Yeah. And how can we be humble and compassionate if we're not humble down here?
Okay. Good.
How can a guy that has a 45 IQ have a database of information that he can recall when necessary, at will?
Can you say John 3:16? Can you say?
Yeah.
I want you to say John 3:16 and then say the verse, okay?
John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, but whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but the world might be saved through him.
He would talk to me about problems, you know, dealing with spiritual, you know, belief or what. You know, he would talk to me about those things and give me some insight, some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding up on those things, you know.
Okay. That shows that he has a higher level of intelligence, right? That he can hear what you're saying and understand what's troubling you, and then go into his mental Bible scripture Rolodex and bring it out. How does that happen?
Because Jesus brought us into this world to love one another, not to destroy one another, not to kill one another, but to love one another.
Do you love life?
Yes,
Are you glad you were here?
yes.
What's your message for us, Bob?
Go with God and he'll go with you. I'm trying to do my song so he can...
Oh, I'm sorry.
For I was hungry, you did not feed me. I was thirsty, you did not give me drink. I was naked, you did not clothe me. When did I do this, Lord? For the least you did unto one of these, you have done unto me.
There's major parallels here that I've never seen before. I'm not saying Bob is Jesus or God, but it's just the similarities are there.
beyond what everybody says.
Beyond, you're right. Yeah.
Because we've interviewed several people that said that, well, I think Bob is God. And they've listed things like, well, he says nice things. He always seems to say appropriate things that I need at the time that I need them. And he doesn't seem to have any intelligence that would know how to say, it just comes out of him. But then after seeing that, and then it's even deeper than that. There are more, the more we dig up his past, the more symbolism there is that some sort of divine force is guiding him or his life.
I got love like an ocean. I got love like the river. I got love like that ocean in my soul. I got peace like a river. I got peace like an ocean. I got peace like that river in my soul.
See, God is a love, God is a compassion, God is fulfillment. And if we don't have that in us today, then what good is love? What good is joy? What good is peace? What good is serenity if it's not in us?
Though none go with thee, still I will follow. Though none go with thee, still I will follow. Though none go with thee, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. The cross before thee, the world behind thee. The cross before thee, the world behind thee. The cross before me, the world behind thee. No turning back, no turning back.
Not worry so much about the things of the world, but live as God would want me to live. Live as God would want me to be there. And not so much of people's ideas, but what he wanted for me to, why he's put his life upon his life of Calvary. What good is Calvary if we can't live towards Calvary? What good is peace and serenity if it's not in us? It's just a myth. And I don't live in a myth. Because he said, greater is he that is in you than he that is of the world. Let me say that again. Greater is he that is in you than he that is of the world. Because he that is of the world is not of God. And he is of God is not of the world. Although I'm in the world, but not of the world.
Who taught you that?
That was a verse I learned a long time ago. Nobody taught me that.
You never know who he is. You never know who God sends down and what their their place is. And that's why early in the beginning I would dismiss him and call him useless, without any value, without any earthly value. And now I'm really in awe about how much value we all have. We all have value, no matter what. It's so easy to dismiss. But Bob has taught me. He's really broadened my perspective on humanity and people. It's so easy to discard them.
These are some of my favorite things. But doing nothing is my favorite one. Cashing in on the glory of my biggest mistakes. Fading in the grass, basking in the sunlight. Go and say to mama, I'll just drive 98. Hold her in my arms, tell her I'll be alright. Breathe in faith and hope in a big fat cigarette. Drowning in the wine, having no regrets. These are some of my favorite things. Don't ask me why. Gold butterfly of my biggest mistakes. I'm fading now at last, basking in sweet sunlight. These are some of my favorite things. Gold butterflies and gum on a string. These are some of my favorite things. But doing nothing is my favorite one. But maybe loving you, babe, is my favorite one. My favorite one. My favorite one.
I saw you looking at my scars, but you never asked what they are. Singing at my front door, just like you did before. I heard you laughing in the moon, but redemption coming soon. How could you break the golden rule? I saw you looking at my scars. Yes, I want love. Who doesn't want that? Thought you took all that would end me. And yes, I want there's a divide between you and me. Keeps getting greater, seems like every time I breathe. And I wanna know the answer. Tell me what's troubling your soul. Tell me what's making you less than whole. Just searching for the question.